Hey everyone, this is Caleb, and in this video we're going to see how Model View Controller is used practically in an iPhone application. We learned about how it works from a theoretical standpoint, but now let's put it into practice. So click Create Xcode Project, and we're going to just make a single view app here, and I'm just going to call this MVC. It's not really how you spell it, of course. Save it wherever you would like, and I'll pull that up in full screen. Need to fix my profile there. Yeah, so here we go. What is typically done in iOS app development is the three layers, model, view, and controller, are typically separated into groups in an Xcode project. So we can see here there's a folder, and if we right-click on that folder and go down here, you'll see there's an option to add what's called a new group, and it's basically just a folder. But this is a visual way that we're going to separate our code files so we know what is a part of the model, what is part of the view, and what is part of the controller. So I'm going to go ahead and create a group here for the model. Right-click once again, make one for the view, and then right-click again and make one for the controller. And I'm going to actually drag these so that they are in order, although sometimes you might accidentally drag one inside of another one. So just pull it over to the left, and they should all be kind of on the same level here. So we now have a folder for our model, view, and controller files when we have them. And if you look right here, in an empty Xcode project, you have both main.storyboard, which shows visually what your interface will look like, and you get a view controller file right out of the box. And if you're wondering, is view controller the same thing as the controller? Yes. The view controller is just kind of the full name, because what it does is it controls the view and engages with the model to basically display data from the model in the view. So we can take this view controller and we can drop it into this group. And now we're going to go ahead and build out the interface and connect everything to the view controller. Now remember, the view controller, all it should ever do in a 100% best practice world, all the view controller should ever do is update the view. Okay, it's going to access data from the model, and it's going to tell the view to update what it looks like. So let's go ahead and let's build our interface here really quickly. To begin, I'm actually going to click on our view controller here and go to the assistant editor. I'm going to set the background to, I don't know, kind of a reddish color. You can choose whatever color you want by clicking on custom, and you can use this color wheel to choose whatever color you'd like. But that's what I'm going to do. Next, I'm going to drag on what is called a UI view. Okay, and we're going to actually use this to understand how the view model comes into play, but not in this video. So with this view on the screen, go ahead and give it some constraints of height and width, and we're going to make it 300 wide and 300 tall. Click Add, and then we're going to go ahead and pin this horizontally and vertically in the center of the container. When you add that, you'll see it will grow to its full size, which is exactly what we want. Very good. Then we're going to go ahead and drag on some labels, and we're going to use those labels in a bit, but for now, go ahead and just search for UI label and drag on 3 labels. And you can click here, and if you want this to stay up, you can hold Option and drag, and it'll actually keep it up in our view here, which is really nice. And so we are going to go ahead and position these the way that we want them. And so I'm going to go ahead and drag this one up here and kind of stretch it nice and big like so. I'm going to put this one right below it and stretch it out. Give it a bit more room here. That looks pretty good. And then I will put this one below, and I will make this one take up the rest of the space. Now I'm going to go ahead and, well, first get rid of the object library there. And I'm going to pin this 8 from the top left, and for the bottom I'm going to leave it not pinned, but I am going to set a fixed height. Now click Add 4 Constraints, then we can perform the constraints on this label. So go ahead and pin it 8 from the top, left, and right, and give it a fixed height of 52, or whatever size yours ended up being. And then we can finally do this where we pin this 8 from all sides. And if we click Add, you'll see everything is going to stay in its place. This will stay pinned to the top, left, and right, and it has a fixed height. This will stay pinned to the top, or I guess to the bottom of this label, the left and the right. And then this bottom label is going to stay pinned 8 from all sides. Now, this will be the title of a movie in a bit. We're going to actually use this app to display the information for a movie. It's going to display the title, a short one-sentence synopsis, and then a more detailed description of the movie. Whoops. Anything you do, you can always undo with Command-Z. So I'm going to actually bump up the size of this to maybe 26, and I'm going to set it to be bold. Okay. For this label, I'm going to set it to 16, and let's set that to be italic, just so it looks a little bit different. So it looks like italic is not going to be an option for me. Oh, there we go. System italic. Beautiful. And then for the smaller description, I'm going to set it to be size 14. But there are some things we need to consider here. This synopsis may be longer than this box, so I'm going to actually give it the option to go up to 3 lines, and that should fit nicely within our label. The movie title shouldn't go longer than this, but in the instance that it does, I'm going to go ahead and set a minimum font size of maybe 16, so it can shrink down at will. And then for the detailed description, I'm going to go ahead and set it to have a max of 10 lines. And you know what? I think we could actually bump this up to 16, bump this up to 18, make this 2 lines. I'm kind of just doing this on the fly here based on what I think will look good. And yeah, this looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and set this to say title, just so we remember what it is. This is a description. And this is going to be a detailed description. And remember, if you get lost or you get stuck or you feel like I'm going too fast, you can always pause the video and go back and watch it slower, watch it faster, whatever you need. So this is looking pretty good. We have that in place. It's pinned in its rightful spot. Let's go ahead and actually build this to a simulator and make sure it looks the way that we want. And then we'll actually dive into the view controller, the actual code file, and discuss how that's going to impact how the view actually looks on the screen. So it's pulling open the simulator here, and it is loading. While it's doing that, I just want to remind you, the view controller, this view controller .swift file, and the controller layer as a whole is not the same as what you see here. The view controller is a code file that impacts what is displayed in the view, which, as you can see, a view controller has a view. And what the view controller does is it controls what is shown and updated in the view. So everything here looks pretty good. It's all centered. The labels look nice. This is great. So let's go ahead and let's open the assistant editor so that we can see the actual interface side by side with its code file. And we're going to go ahead and link everything up now so that it's nice and available to our view controller. So let's go ahead and actually we'll get rid of view did load for now. And what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and right click and drag over here, and we're going to name this title label. This is an IB outlet, just a reminder, and an IB outlet is a connection that essentially connects our view to our view controller. It tells it how to control it. So we can connect it there, and then through the view controller, we can actually access the title label instance and update its properties, like the text inside. Now let's do that for the description. Let's right click and drag. Let's call this, how about just desk label? Okay, connect that. And then right click and drag from the detailed description and call this detail desk label. Cool, that looks great. And you know what? We're also going to need a button, because I'm going to make a button here that will essentially capture data from the model, or at least create an object of data from the model. Then it will pass it to the view and display the data in the view. So we're going to use a button to do that. So go ahead and search for button, drag one on and position it, I don't know, maybe there. That's pretty good. If you double click it, we can give it a description. We can give it a name, and let's just say maybe update view with model data. Cool. Let's make this white so it stands out a little better, and let's make the font bold, and let's bump it up to 22 looks pretty good. Let's do that. Now what we are going to do is we're going to go ahead and pin this so that it stays in its rightful place. We're going to pin it 40 from the bottom. That sounds pretty good. And then we're going to go ahead and make sure that it stays horizontal in the container. Cool. So how do we actually use this button? What do we do in order to, get it to work? Well, we need to right click and drag from that button and select outlet and then change it to action. This is called an IB action. And what an IB action allows us to do is it's basically a function that is called whenever a button is interacted with or whenever, an element is interacted with in Swift. So we can go ahead and call this update button was pressed. And I like to name my IB actions based on what has happened. This operates when the update button was pressed. And so now, check it out, we have a function connected to our IB action, and every time we tap that button, we can update the label. So to prove this, I'm just going to go ahead and type titleLabel.text, and when I push the button, I'm going to say updated yo. Cool. So let's go make sure that our button is working. We're going to build our project here to the simulator and launch it. Should pop up any minute. There it is. Beautiful. And when I click this button, you'll see the label here will update. Boom. Very cool stuff. So as you can see, the view controller is the code file that is allowing us to interact with the view in code. Now, in a second, we're going to create an instance of our model layer after we create it. That is, we're going to create basically a chunk of data that contains all of the things we need to make our model layer. And we're going to construct that, and we're going to use that constructed data to update our labels. And this is very much how model view controller type applications work, or at least how the layers coordinate together to make things happen. So go ahead and get rid of this line of code. And I believe we are now ready to head over to the next video where we are going to create what is called a custom view subclass. And it's a way that we can actually set up our view to look a certain way. And it's pretty cool. It's really robust. You can do a lot of things with it. So let's head over to that video now and let's learn how to do that.